I love facing the pressure moments head on. I love coming out of those moments stronger than I was when I entered it. So, and I love the lessons and the people I learn being a professional.
2 points. That's all that stood between her and a version of this story nobody would want to watch. The crowd doesn't know it yet, but they're seconds away from witnessing something that will get replayed for years. Rewind 3 months and she's a name people are quietly forgetting, ranked outside the world's top 40. And somewhere out there, a headline is already half written about a promising kid who peaked too early. So what actually happened in those 90 days? Keep watching, because the real beginning isn't on a tennis court at all. It's in an airport, at night, with one bag and one impossibly brave decision. 13 years old. Fluorescent lights overhead. Her parents standing a few feet away, trying not to let their faces show what they're feeling. She hugs them, turns, and walks toward a gate that leads to Mallorca, Spain, and the Rafael Nadal Academy, one of the most unforgiving proving grounds in the sport. New country. New language. A room full of kids from every continent chasing the exact same impossible dream, knowing only a handful of them will ever make it out the other side. Here's the part nobody warns you about. There's no contract waiting for her. No guarantee any of this pays off. Picture the scene that repeats itself for years afterward. 5 a.m, empty courts. Just her, a coach, a ball machine, and a silence so total you can hear your own doubts breathing. That's the part the highlight reels never show you. Some nights the homesickness hits so hard it feels physical, a weight sitting on her chest as the academy goes quiet around her. But instead of running from it, she builds a cage around it made of pure routine. Wake up, train, study, recover, repeat. It sounds boring. It is boring. And that boredom is exactly what quietly forges a threat nobody sees coming. Here's the thing about resilience nobody tells you. It doesn't arrive the day you need it most. It's been stacking up in silence, one invisible morning at a time. Which is exactly why what happens next lands like a shockwave. Cut to 2022, Flushing Meadows, New York. 17 years old, standing at the baseline, 1 point away from a title that will change everything. She wins it. US Open Girls Singles Champion. And just like that, a name almost nobody outside junior tennis had ever heard is suddenly everywhere. But here's a trap almost nobody warns young athletes about. The moment you succeed young, the world starts measuring you against a version of yourself you haven't even become yet. Every future loss stops being just a loss. It becomes a question. Was that title a fluke? Can she actually survive against grown women who've been doing this for a decade? Those questions trail her onto the Pro Tour like a shadow that refuses to leave. But so does something else, something quieter and more powerful. Memory. The memory of standing on a massive stage and delivering when it mattered most. So she climbs. Not cleanly, nobody climbs cleanly, but she climbs. And then 2025 happens, and everything detonates at once. Miami. Picture it. Packed stands, humid Florida air, and a teenager playing like she has absolutely nothing to lose. Win after win, she's taking down seasoned professionals with this fearless, left-handed, no-hesitation style nobody quite knows how to solve. She reaches the semifinals. Say that number again in your head. The semifinals, in a tournament built to swallow players exactly like her whole. Commentators are scrambling live on air to explain who she even is. Fans who've never watched her play are typing her name into search bars mid-match. Back home in the Philippines, an entire country is gathered around screens, watching one of their own trade blows with the best in the world. It feels like liftoff. And that's precisely the moment you should brace yourself, because tennis has one brutal, unbreakable law. It punishes anyone who assumes momentum lasts forever. Fast forward to 2026. Same stadium, same blue courts. But something invisible has shifted. Because this time she's not the underdog people are rooting for. She's the target everyone expects to repeat a miracle. And the magic doesn't show up. She's out early, far earlier than anyone predicted, and you can almost feel the exact moment the momentum drains out of the arena. The ranking points that had been holding her up start disappearing with her. Within weeks, she's fallen outside the top 40 again. Read that number one more time. From the outside, this looks like collapse. So here's the question nobody's saying out loud yet, but everyone's thinking, was Miami the peak, or was it just the beginning of a fall? Whispers start almost immediately. Did opponents figure her out? Was that breakthrough one perfect week mistaken for greatness? The tour shifts onto clay next, a surface built for patience and grinding, the exact opposite of everything that makes her dangerous, and the results confirm the worst fears. Picture a match point slipping away on a slow red court, ball after ball landing just a few inches long, her shoulders dropping slightly with every unforced error. Winnable matches slip away in tight sets. The aggression that once defined her starts to look hesitant, almost apologetic. Every early exit becomes another headline questioning whether the breakthrough was ever real. This is usually where stories like this end. But here's what almost nobody watching from the outside understood, and this is the turn you need to lean into. While the scoreboard tells one story, something completely different is happening underneath it. She keeps training. She keeps stepping onto courts she might lose. In one interview during this exact stretch, her voice steady but tired, she talks about learning to manage pressure and expectation, calling it maybe the hardest opponent she's faced yet. That's not the sound of someone giving up. Coaches are quietly sharpening details that won't show up in a scoreline for weeks. Her body is being rebuilt, rep by rep, to survive a full season at the top. None of it is visible. None of it makes headlines. But brick by invisible brick, it's happening underneath a season that looks on paper like a disaster. So keep this in mind, because it matters more than anything that's about to happen. Then the calendar turns, and everything turns with it. Picture the shift like a light switching on. Grass courts, quicker bounces, shorter points, and suddenly all the instincts that felt clumsy on clay snap back into focus. Birmingham is where it first shows itself, and it shows up fast. She isn't surviving matches anymore. She's hunting again. Watch her footwork in that first match back. Lighter, quicker, decisive. Like months of hesitation just evaporated overnight. That left-handed forehand that terrorized opponents in Miami is suddenly doing it again, forcing errors, cracking open court that shouldn't be open. She wins Birmingham. Not a Grand Slam, not global headlines, but undeniable proof that everything built during the darkest stretch of her season wasn't wasted after all. This is the hinge. This is the exact point the entire year quietly pivots on, even though almost nobody watching realizes it yet. She carries that momentum straight into Berlin, and the competition stops being forgiving. Seasoned champions, dangerous grass court specialists, players who've spent years dismantling younger opponents exactly like her. And instead of shrinking, she gets bigger. Picture the scene courtside, an experienced former champion across the net, expecting an easy afternoon, suddenly scrambling to track down a ball that shouldn't have been reachable. Round after round, she takes down players with far more experience, and it stops looking like luck. By the semifinals, the entire conversation flips overnight. So here's the twist nobody predicted a month earlier. The same name that was disappearing from rankings conversations is now the name everyone's whispering before Wimbledon even begins. Because Wimbledon is next, the tournament every player dreams about as a kid and quietly fears as an adult. Since the stakes here don't just define a season, they can define an entire career. Picture the all-white kits, the manicured grass gleaming under an overcast London sky, the hush that falls over center court right before a big point. She fights through the early rounds, survives matches that could have ended everything in an instant, and finds herself in the third round, staring across the net at the reigning Wimbledon champion. This is the moment we opened with. This is the 2 points. The first set becomes a war of nerves, neither player giving an inch, the crowd leaning forward in their seats without realizing it, until it all comes down to a tiebreak. And there it is, 2 set points against her. Picture her standing at the baseline, bouncing the ball once, twice, breathing slow, the entire match balanced on a single shot. One nervous swing, and everything tilts away from her permanently. Instead, something clicks. She goes still inside the chaos. Point by point, she claws back both set points, and somehow, impossibly, steals the tiebreak. Listen to the crowd noise shift in that instant, disbelief turning into a roar. That single sequence isn't just a set. It's the moment doubt gets replaced by belief permanently. From there, she doesn't just compete, she dictates. Picture the second set entirely. Her taking the ball early, stepping inside the baseline, refusing to let the champion breathe. She closes out one of the defining wins of her career on the biggest stage the sport has to offer. When it's over, watch the moment she sits down courtside, towel over her face, shoulders shaking slightly, the weight of everything finally catching up to her. In her post-match interview, her voice cracks as she talks about learning the game as a kid with her grandfather, a small human detail that quietly connects everything. The airport, the empty courts at everything. The airport, the empty courts at dawn, all the way back to where this really started. And then, almost like she senses the story trying to wrap itself up too soon, she calmly reminds everyone that feeling emotional doesn't mean she feels satisfied. So here's the question that should stop you cold. If beating a Wimbledon champion isn't enough to satisfy her, what exactly is she chasing? Because if that win had been where this story ended, it would already be remarkable. But it isn't the ending. Every match pushes her ranking higher, and the same player who dropped outside the top 40 months earlier climbs to a new career high, hovering around world number 28. Her run eventually ends in the fourth round after a brutal 3-set battle. And here's the moment that should give you chills. Picture her walking off center court after a loss, head slightly down, and then the sound builds behind her, the entire crowd rising to its feet, applauding a player who just lost. Standing ovations after a fourth-round exit are rare, which makes this one impossible to ignore. Afterward, reflecting on the tournament, she points to how she handled pressure as one of the biggest positives she's taking away. And think about how far that single sentence travels. Months earlier, pressure looked like the exact force pulling her entire season underwater. Now she's calling it something she's learned to live inside of. The setbacks didn't vanish. She just became someone capable of standing inside them without breaking. So here's the season laid completely bare. A player crashes outside the top 40, survives a brutal clay season while the tennis world quietly writes her off, then answers with a title in Birmingham, a statement run in Berlin, a signature win over a defending Wimbledon champion, a career high ranking, and a standing ovation for a loss. That is not the story of a breakthrough fading into irrelevance. And the wild part, this still isn't finished. Picture what's coming next. Hard courts, Washington first, then Toronto, Cincinnati, and finally the US Open under the lights. A completely different test rewarding complete players who can be aggressive and consistent in equal measure. So here's the question the entire tennis world is quietly asking right now. Can she sustain this? Or was grass just another perfect stretch about to fade the same way Miami did? Nobody knows yet. And that uncertainty is exactly what makes this worth staying for. Tennis has a brutal habit of humbling even the most gifted players, but it has a quieter habit too, of rewarding the ones who keep improving while nobody's watching, the ones grinding through empty practice courts long after the cameras have packed up and gone home. Picture that 13-year-old girl one last time, standing at that airport gate, no idea what's waiting for her on the other side. She's already done more than most people thought possible. But watching the fire she still plays with every time she steps onto a court, it's hard not to wonder if she's even come close to her ceiling yet. So think back to where we started. 2 set points. One mistake away from everything ending before it truly began. That moment wasn't the exception in her story. It was the pattern, and if the last few months are any indication, the moment things look like they're falling apart around her is exactly the moment something bigger is quietly getting ready to begin. Counting her out has become a mistake people keep making, and she keeps finding new ways to make them regret it.